What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Jay-Z Bottom Lip. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And if you haven't already, so you won't miss out on any future content. I also wanted to show some notice to a lot of people who've been, active in my community, also who's been always supporting me. And that's going to be MC Kicks. I also want to give a shout out to Rule 3688, Shikamaru, Prodigy, Winston Garcia, Jordan, Mortal Kombat as well. I appreciate you guys for always showing love. I will always have something for you guys in the Discord. Hit me up in the Discord. I got something for you guys. Anyway, let's get right into this video. I wanted to talk about something called honest characters. A lot of times we don't talk too much about honest characters and their role in video games. In my opinion, when it comes to honest characters will help you understand certain things that you lack, and they will also enhance on things that you may struggle with or things that you mostly avoid. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of times honest characters will expose you on things that you struggle with, and this will help you learn from your mistakes or learn from the things that you struggle with. And if you enhance it by practicing it or playing bad matchups or playing matchups where you don't necessarily get away with escape free cards or just getting away with doing things in particular that you shouldn't, but in this game like Mortal Kombat, your cameos are always going to save your ass. So this requires you to be able to be composed, make good reads, take your turn back correctly, and so on and so forth. I think this is why a lot of people don't play Lee May. Also, I'll have a description below where I break down Lee May. If you guys don't mind, you can check out that video as well if you do like Lee May. Anyway, the reason why I think Lee May is probably the most honest character, besides the fact that she does not play meta, is the simple fact of her kit. And what I mean by that is that if you look, right, all her strings do not gel except for this string right here. Everything else does not gel into Fireball, as you can tell, right? So knowing that, you have to understand, unfortunately, the only way that this is good is for neutral. This is good in the neutral and throwing your opponent off. And if they wanted to jump, you'll be able to anti them because this is pretty quick. And on top of that, full screen is pretty good as well. And you can also pop your balloon in the air. If I can stop doing that, but if you can pop your balloon in the air. Okay. We try one more time. I'll just keep it simple. But anyway, it becomes a mid and it becomes very strong. So it's really important to learn how to play neutral with this character, also how to zone, but also space as well. And this will also teach you how to do these things because it doesn't come easy and it doesn't come natural, but you'll soon to figure out how she's supposed to be played. Also, a lot of her strings, even though she might be plus, she has a lot of gaps in her strings. This is why I believe she's an honest character, because even though she's plus after strings like this, and if you space it correctly, you might be able to backdash and then like whip punish your opponent. She has a really good backdash as well. So if your opponent wanted to like mash after, right? You can take your turn back, right? This is really strong because this teaches you how to whip punish. It teaches you how to utilize plus frames. Not necessarily always when you're plus, you do things like this. You don't have to do that. You can create mind games off the simple fact that you can backdash after strings. And if you become really good with the character, you can do things like that. You see how I punish him for trying to poke? You can do things like that if you get really comfortable with the character. You can start doing 1-2 and then whip punishing like that as well. You can use this string to whip punish because it is a mid, and you can also whip punish with this string as well. So you can do like things like that, whatever the combo may be with this character. Whatever, right? So the reason why another reason why I think this character is also honest is not just the simple fact that this doesn't gel. It's not the simple fact that she has gaps in her strings. It's because of the risk reward behind a lot of things that she does, right? So like if she just wants to do an overhead just to create mind games off of her overhead, she is negative, so you do get a free punish. And then on top of that, if you just so happen to stand block, and you might most likely do, if you flawless block the second hit of the move, it becomes negative and you can punish it. This is what you call risk reward. And also on top of this, this is what you call a balanced character, because there's no way that this character can make that move safe unless they have a cameo to basically make themselves safe. At that point, if you have a cameo to make yourself safe, it's really important to understand what type of game plan that you want to do with this character. And once you start switching up certain cameos, she starts to lack in certain areas, and that's up to you to figure out. But that's just my opinion about this character. I feel like she's only good with a select few cameos, and the only cameos she's going to be good with is those who's going to allow her to combo off of this string in particular, which will be Scorpion, which will be Movado, and which will be Janet. Those three characters allow her to be able to play off of this in particular. And the reason why this move in particular is really good, or it's important to understand that this is going to be very important for your kit, is because again, this character has a lot of gaps, and a lot of times your opponent wants to challenge with a poke a lot of times against this character. Why? Because again, a lot of her moves have gaps, and the fastest poke is always going to be a low. And knowing that, you know that with this string in particular, let's go over her strings really quick. This string in particular, you can press here, like that. You see that? But now she's considered airborne. I think this was an update for Pharah. So some characters can get combos with Pharah. I apologize if I'm wrong, but now that this is considered airborne, you can do things like this. Especially with this matchup, you can do things like that, right? So if my opponent wants to poke here, I can actually reverse my opponent by getting them to poke, right? Quick on, right? So if my opponent wants to poke, I can reverse it like that. And this is really strong because when I start conditioning my opponent, I can do that. Punish that. Hold on. You see what I'm saying? So it's really hard with Scorpion, but it can be done with Scorpion. But it's more easier with Janet and Movado. So that's always going to be another cameos that's going to be really good for her. They are strong for her, and they are suitable for her. But I think the biggest problem for this character is always going to be the fact that she doesn't have any strings that necessarily gel where she needs it, especially if your opponent can always armor through your gaps, if that makes sense. So I'll give you another example. Most of the time, you don't have to hold her pressure. Like when she's doing things like this, you could always just armor, or you could just duck and punish, right? See that? You can always duck and punish her. Especially for this string, there's no like mix here. She would literally have to do something negative, which she would get herself killed for in the long term, which would be like using her knees. This string like that. See what I mean? But at the same time, all I have to do is react to the fact that a fireball is coming. There's no real mix here, and I think that's really the problem here. Now she can do things like this, but remember what I said, she has a lot of gaps in her strength. This requires you to learn how to play neutral. This will require you to learn how to play footsies, how to bait your opponent, whiff punish, create mind games, mental stack, layers, and so on and so forth. I think Li Mei is a great character for those who want to take the next step into becoming really good at Mortal Kombat. You don't have to main this character, but this character will teach you a lot about matchups. You would appreciate certain characters that you play more, understanding that she does not get the privilege like everyone else can. She can play at a certain tempo. Once you learn how to play this character, you can be very strong with her, but there's going to be a lot of matchups where it's going to feel very tough, and that's up to you to figure out. But the few things that I can say about this character is that her pressure is really strong. Besides Johnny Cage, I think she has one of the top best pressure in the game without cameo. And that's really hard to say. But once you learn how to play this character, and once you figure out how to play off of layers with moves that have gaps, you will appreciate your character that has gaps. You'll start to tend to play footsies with your opponent, baiting them to poke, with punishing them, and so on and so forth. A lot of times these cameos cover options that we suck at, and it shows. But since the game helps carry you, we will never be able to really see what you really can do. And again, if you really want to get good at this game, I personally recommend playing Li Mei. Besides another character that I'll probably cover. But these are my opinions about this character being honest. A lot of things she has you can punish if it is negative. A lot of moves that has gaps, you can down poke them rather than just trying to armor them and reverse of them. In that way, you can just down poke them. You can do stand moves. You can do so many things in particular that now, knowing that your opponent has this many gaps, it can be very hard to understand how to fight a character once you become really good with Li Mei. But it's up to you. Again, like I said, up to you to figure it out. Try not to make this video too long. I appreciate everyone who watches this video. If you have any questions about Li Mei, I would love to hear you guys' feedback. But this is my honest opinion about honest characters in Mortal Kombat 1. She doesn't have a lot of things, and you won't see much of her at a high level, and that's just how it's going to be for now until she gets buffed. I think, in my opinion, she needs strings that's going to allow her to gel her fireball, and I also think her fireball without enhance should push back a little more, and it should be 0 on block. But that's just my opinion. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. It's your boy Jay-Z.